Think back for just a second. Remember the smell of your grandma's kitchen, the backyard picnics, or those quick family lunches where a sandwich wasn't just food, it was a memory wrapped between two slices of bread. Some of those sandwiches we grew up with felt like they would last forever. But the truth is, many of them have quietly slipped away, erased by fast food menus, changing tastes, and the rush of modern life. And yet, tucked away in old cookbooks and the memories of older generations, these sandwiches still hold stories, flavors, and traditions worth savoring. Today, we're taking a journey into that world. A journey where mustard wasn't just a condiment, it was an entire flavor profile. Where canned meats became the base of after-school snacks. Where the simplest spreads created comfort. This is not just about sandwiches. It's about rediscovering a part of our cultural table that time tried to erase. Before we take this nostalgic bite into history, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because you won't want to miss the series of culinary throwbacks we're bringing to the channel. And if you're watching right now with a sandwich in your hand, let us know in the comments what your forgotten family sandwich is. We might just feature it in a future video. Sandwiches are more than just quick meals, they are cultural symbols, time capsules, and taste memories. Every region, every family, every generation has sandwiches that once ruled the lunchbox, the picnic basket, or the dining table, but have since faded into obscurity. Some disappeared because ingredients fell out of favor, some because new health trends labeled them unacceptable, and others simply because time moved on and tastes shifted. In today's video, we're revisiting 20 of these forgotten classics. Some may make you laugh, some may make you cringe, and some may make you wish they'd make a comeback. But all of them tell a story worth retelling. So, let's open the breadbox of memory and take a bite out of the past. Sandwich number 1, the olive and cream cheese delight. Once a popular lunchbox staple in the 1950s and 60s, the olive and cream cheese sandwich was the perfect balance of salty and smooth. Spread cream cheese generously on white bread, sprinkle chopped green olives with pimentos, and you had a sandwich that was as easy to make as it was to love. It wasn't fancy, but it had character. Why did it fade? Well, olives became less common in everyday households, cream cheese took on new roles in cheesecakes and bagels, and eventually, this combination was forgotten. But for those who remember it, the tangy burst of olives against the creamy background was unforgettable. This sandwich also carried a social charm. It was often served at bridge games, luncheons, and church gatherings, offering a savory bite that felt special despite its simplicity. It reflected a time when flavor didn't have to be complex to be memorable. Sandwich number 2, the bologna and cheese classic. For decades, bologna was the king of affordable meats. Paired with a slice of American cheese and stuffed between white bread with mayo, this sandwich was a go-to for school lunches across North America. Its simplicity was its strength. But times changed. Bologna, once affordable and widely available, was gradually stigmatized as low-quality meat. Nutrition-conscious families moved toward leaner proteins, and soon, the bologna and cheese sandwich was pushed to the sidelines. Yet, one bite of this sandwich today can instantly bring back the taste of childhood for those who grew up on it. The sound of the plastic lunchbox snapping open, the smell of wax paper wrapping, and the first bite of that soft, salty, slightly sweet combination brought comfort to generations of kids. It wasn't gourmet, but it was dependable, and that's why it lingers in memory. Sandwich number 3, the sardine sandwich. It might sound strange to younger generations, but sardine sandwiches were once considered a quick, healthy lunch packed with protein. Canned sardines mashed with a bit of mayo or mustard, spread on rye bread, and sometimes topped with onions, created a strong, salty, flavorful sandwich. It faded because sardines became associated with poor man's food, and their strong flavor didn't align with changing palates. But during wartime and post-war frugality, this sandwich was not just common, it was respected. Families relied on sardines because they were cheap, shelf-stable, and full of nutrients. The sardine sandwich symbolized practicality, resilience, and nourishment in times when every penny mattered. While it might raise eyebrows today, in its era, it was a proud staple that proved you could turn modest ingredients into a hearty meal. Sandwich number 4, the peanut butter and bacon. Yes, peanut butter and bacon. Before bacon became the internet's favorite obsession, this combo was already making waves in American households. Salty, crispy bacon layered over a creamy spread of peanut butter was indulgent but surprisingly balanced. So why did it vanish? Health trends. As families began cutting down on fat and sodium in the 80s and 90s, this sandwich quickly fell out of favor. Yet, in its time, it was a playful, hearty treat that blended two beloved ingredients in a way that just worked. Some families even took it further by adding bananas, creating a sweet and savory mix popularized by celebrities like Elvis Presley. It was messy, rich, and unapologetic, a sandwich that celebrated flavor over caution, comfort over calories. Sandwich number 5, the tomato and mayo. There was nothing complicated here. Just thick slices of fresh summer tomatoes, slathered with mayo, seasoned with salt and pepper, and pressed between two slices of bread. A southern summer staple, this sandwich was refreshing, simple, and affordable. But with changing lifestyles, convenience replaced seasonality. Out-of-season tomatoes from supermarkets lacked the same flavor, and people slowly turned away from this seasonal delight. Still, in rural areas, it's remembered as the ultimate taste of summer afternoons. Biting into one wasn't just about flavor, it was about freshness. The juice would drip onto the plate, the mayo soaked into the bread, and every bite carried the warmth of sun-ripened produce. It was proof that the best things in life often come from the garden, not the store. Sandwich number 6, the fried egg sandwich. Before breakfast sandwiches were commercialized into drive-through staples, the fried egg sandwich was a homegrown solution. A freshly fried egg placed between bread, often with ketchup or hot sauce, created a quick, protein-packed breakfast. It faded only because it evolved. Fast food chains took the idea, mass-produced it, and turned it into something standardized. The original homemade version, with all its messy yolk and personal flair, became less common as people traded tradition for convenience. But at its heart, the fried egg sandwich was never just about filling up, it was about resourcefulness. 1 egg, 2 slices of bread, maybe a leftover slice of cheese, and you had a meal in minutes. It was humble, affordable, and made with love in kitchens that valued simplicity. Sandwich number 7, the pimento cheese sandwich. Pimento cheese, sometimes called the caviar of the South, was once a ubiquitous spread across southern kitchens. A mixture of cheese, mayo, and pimentos, it was creamy, zesty, and highly addictive. Spread thickly on bread, it made for an iconic sandwich. While still found in some southern homes, nationally, the pimento cheese sandwich faded. Supermarkets stopped carrying it widely, and its association with older generations meant it didn't catch on with younger eaters. But at its peak, it was a cultural icon of Southern hospitality. It was more than a sandwich, it was an expression of pride, appearing at church picnics, weddings, and family reunions. Sandwich number 8, the Spam and Pickle Sandwich. Spam, a World War II necessity, was loved for its shelf life and versatility. Pairing fried or sliced Spam with pickles in a sandwich gave a salty, tangy kick that sustained families through lean times. But as Spam became mocked in pop culture and branded as a cheap food, its popularity plummeted in North America. Yet in places like Hawaii, Spam never faded, and sandwiches like this remain beloved. For many mainland families, however, the Spam and Pickle sandwich is nothing more than a memory. It was a survival sandwich, born from rationing and ingenuity, but it was also comforting in its own way. Kids grew up on it, soldiers relied on it, and families made do with it. For some, it's still a taste of resilience. Sandwich number 9, the cucumber and butter tea sandwich. Once a symbol of elegance at tea parties and afternoon gatherings, cucumber and butter sandwiches were light, crisp, and refreshing. Thinly sliced cucumbers layered on buttered bread offered subtle sophistication. Why did it fade? Lifestyles changed. Afternoon tea gatherings dwindled, and light sandwiches gave way to heartier meals. What was once a fashionable finger food became an old-fashioned relic, remembered mostly in old etiquette books. Yet in its heyday, this sandwich embodied refinement. It was gentle, cooling, and delicate, perfect for conversations over china cups of tea. More than food, it represented a slower pace of life, when hospitality was measured not in abundance, but in thoughtfulness. Sandwich number 10, the Sloppy Joe, homemade version. Yes, Sloppy Joes are still around in cafeterias and frozen food aisles, but the homemade Sloppy Joe sandwich, ground beef simmered with tomato paste, ketchup, and spices, then spooned onto soft buns, has almost disappeared from regular family dinners. Homemade Sloppy Joes required time, and as families moved toward faster meals, the scratch-made version faded. Pre-packaged mixes replaced tradition, and eventually, the sandwich itself became less common. But once upon a time, this messy, saucy creation was a weeknight favorite. Kids loved its chaos, parents loved its affordability, and together it became a family ritual. Each bite carried not just flavor, but fun. It wasn't just food, it was dinner that demanded a napkin and brought laughter to the table. Sandwich number 11, the deviled ham sandwich. Back in the mid-20th century, deviled ham spread was a pantry staple. Made from ground ham mixed with spices, mustard, and mayo, it offered a zesty punch in every bite. Families loved it because it was affordable, easy to prepare, and had a long shelf life. A slice of bread, a generous smear of deviled ham, maybe a pickle slice, and lunch was ready. So why did it fade? Processed canned meats slowly lost their appeal as nutrition labels became a bigger part of decision-making. Deviled ham started to feel old-fashioned, and it was replaced by fresher deli meats. Yet for those who grew up with it, the memory of its tangy, smoky bite still lingers. Many adults remember opening those tiny metal cans with the key attached, spreading it thickly on white bread, and washing it down with a glass of milk. Sandwich number 12, the liverwurst sandwich. There was a time when liverwurst wasn't just a deli oddity but a respected ingredient in American and European households. Spread thickly on rye bread, often with onions or mustard, liverwurst sandwiches were rich, bold, and unapologetically flavorful. As tastes shifted and organ meats fell out of favor, liverwurst became harder to find. Its decline mirrors the broader disappearance of traditional foods that once made use of every part of the animal. Today, it's rare to find younger generations craving this sandwich, but for those who remember, it was a staple of hearty lunches. In German and Polish immigrant households, it wasn't just food, it was a link to heritage. Kids might wrinkle their noses at the strong aroma, but older family members prized its dense texture and earthy flavor. For some, it was enjoyed with a side of pickles or sauerkraut, completing a meal that reflected old-world traditions transplanted into American life. Though its popularity waned, liverwurst remains a nostalgic delicacy for those who grew up with it on their family tables. Sandwich number 13, the egg salad sandwich. Few sandwiches were as universally beloved as the egg salad. Boiled eggs mashed with mayo, mustard, salt, and pepper created a creamy filling that was both affordable and filling. It was a picnic essential, a school lunchbox favorite, and a reliable go-to for family gatherings. But with the rise of fast food and the push toward higher protein meats, egg salad slowly declined in popularity. The strong smell didn't help either, making it less ideal for school or office lunches. Still, one bite of this sandwich today can bring you back to summer picnics and family reunions under the sun. For many, egg salad also carried a homemade charm. Grandmothers and mothers would often season it their own way, adding relish, paprika, or even a touch of dill. It was the kind of sandwich that reminded people of community potlucks, backyard barbecues, and long car rides with foil-wrapped sandwiches in a cooler. Sandwich number 14, the tongue sandwich. Yes, beef tongue sandwiches were once very real and very popular, especially in Jewish delis and immigrant communities. Sliced thin, tender tongue paired with mustard and rye bread was considered both nutritious and satisfying. Its decline is simple, modern palates grew squeamish. Tongue, like many traditional cuts, was deemed too strange for mainstream American taste buds, and over time, it was pushed out by more familiar deli meats. What was once a proud tradition in certain communities has now become nearly forgotten. Still, for those who grew up in cities like New York or Chicago, tongue sandwiches were a rite of passage, often ordered by parents or grandparents who insisted on keeping cultural traditions alive. The texture was surprisingly tender, and when prepared well, the flavor rivaled that of roast beef. Sadly, as organ meat slipped further into obscurity, the tongue sandwich became a relic, surviving mostly in specialty delis and old cookbooks that speak to a more adventurous eating past. Sandwich number 15, the chicken salad sandwich. Much like egg salad, the chicken salad sandwich was once a lunchbox legend. Leftover chicken, chopped celery, mayo, and spices created a creamy, crunchy filling that worked beautifully between slices of bread. It was versatile, easy to prepare, and beloved across generations. It faded largely because of lifestyle shifts. Fewer families cook whole chickens at home, which means fewer leftovers to turn into chicken salad. Pre-packaged versions in grocery stores lacked the homemade touch, and eventually, it lost its charm. Still, the memory of a homemade chicken salad sandwich remains strong in family cookbooks and childhood stories. Some families even added grapes, nuts, or apples for a sweet and crunchy twist, turning an ordinary lunch into something special. It was the kind of sandwich you might find at a church picnic, bridal shower, or summer luncheon, served on soft rolls or white bread with the crusts cut off. Today, it exists mainly as a nostalgic dish, but one bite of a well-made chicken salad sandwich can transport you back to afternoons at Grandma's kitchen table. Sandwich number 16, the creamed chipped beef sandwich. Also known as SOS during wartime, an abbreviation with a less polite meaning, this sandwich was born from necessity. Dried beef in a creamy white gravy poured over toast made for a filling, inexpensive meal that sustained soldiers and families alike. After the war, it became a nostalgic comfort food for many, but over time, it was labeled as bland, heavy, and outdated. Modern families rarely prepare chipped beef at home, leaving this once iconic sandwich in the dust of culinary history. For those who did eat it, though, it wasn't just food, it was survival and resilience on a plate. Veterans often recalled it with a mix of groans and smiles, remembering how it fed entire barracks on a budget. At home, parents could stretch a few slices of dried beef into a whole meal, feeding hungry kids after school. While it may no longer be common, the creamed chipped beef sandwich represents an era when practicality mattered more than presentation, and resourcefulness shaped what ended up on the dinner table. Sandwich number 17, the peanut butter and marshmallow fluffernutter. This sweet creation was a childhood dream in the mid-20th century. Peanut butter paired with marshmallow fluff on soft white bread was indulgent, sticky, and oh so satisfying. It wasn't just food, it was a cultural symbol of carefree childhoods. Its decline came from nutrition awareness. Parents became wary of the sugar content, and over time, the fluffernutter was pushed aside in favor of healthier snacks. But for those who ever had one, the gooey sweetness remains unforgettable. Kids who grew up with it remember the way the fluff would stick to the roof of your mouth, the peanut butter grounding the sugary rush in perfect balance. It wasn't a sandwich you ate every day, it was a treat, often made on lazy weekends or during sleepovers when indulgence was part of the fun. Some states, especially in New England, even considered it a local tradition, with heated debates about whether it deserved to be part of the school lunch rotation. Though fading, it holds a permanent spot in the scrapbook of American childhood snacks. Sandwich number 18, the meatloaf sandwich. Leftover meatloaf wasn't just reheated for dinner, it was transformed into sandwiches. A thick slice of meatloaf tucked into bread with ketchup or mustard made for a hearty and budget-friendly lunch. It was the kind of sandwich that filled you up and made leftovers exciting. But as meatloaf itself declined in popularity as a home-cooked staple, the sandwich naturally disappeared with it. Families cooking less from scratch and leaning toward faster meals meant that this hearty creation became a relic of the past. Still, for those who grew up with it, the meatloaf sandwich was a comfort food that carried the warmth of home. Wrapped in wax paper for school lunches or pulled from the fridge for a midnight snack, it brought practicality and comfort together in one satisfying bite. Some even elevated it with melted cheese or sautéed onions, making it a rival to diner burgers. Its decline reflects not just changing tastes but also the fading tradition of stretching one home-cooked meal into another, a practice that defined earlier generations. Sandwich number 19, the cabbage and sausage sandwich. Rooted in Eastern European traditions, the cabbage and sausage sandwich was a comfort food for immigrant families. Cooked cabbage and seasoned sausage wrapped in bread created a filling, flavorful, and inexpensive meal. Its decline reflects the assimilation of immigrant cuisines into mainstream culture. Many families abandoned traditional recipes in favor of modern, Americanized meals. The cabbage and sausage sandwich slowly disappeared, remembered only in the kitchens of those who still hold on to old-world traditions. Yet for many who grew up eating it, the smell of sautéed cabbage and sizzling sausage instantly brings back memories of family kitchens where recipes weren't written down but passed along by heart. These sandwiches weren't just food, they were an expression of identity and survival, made with inexpensive ingredients that carried deep cultural meaning. Sandwich number 20, the fried bologna sandwich. This was the upgraded version of the simple bologna sandwich. Frying the bologna gave it a crispy edge and a richer flavor, often paired with mustard or cheese. It was cheap, quick, and surprisingly satisfying. As health-conscious movements grew and bologna itself fell out of fashion, the fried version naturally disappeared too. But for many, The memory of sizzling bologna in a pan is tied to childhood breakfasts and quick weekend lunches. The sound of it popping and curling in the skillet was as familiar as the smell of toast or bacon in the morning. Some families would top it with a fried egg, others with a slice of melted American cheese, turning it into a hearty meal that tasted better than it had any right to. It was food born of practicality, but it became a comfort food that defined Saturday mornings and lazy summer afternoons. Today, it lives on as a guilty pleasure for those willing to revisit a taste of the past. So there you have it, 20 forgotten sandwiches that once defined family tables across generations. Each one tells a story not just of food, but of culture, of family traditions, of survival, and of simple pleasures. They remind us that food is never just about eating, it's about memory, identity, and connection. Some of these sandwiches may seem outdated, even strange, by today's standards. But when you think about it, they were built on the same principles we still cherish today: convenience, creativity, and comfort. The truth is, forgotten foods aren't really gone. They live on in memories, in old recipe cards, in the faded pages of community cookbooks, and sometimes, if we're lucky, on the plates of those who still carry on tradition. Maybe it's time to bring some of them back. Imagine reviving the tomato and mayo sandwich with heirloom tomatoes, or turning the Spam and pickle into a gourmet creation. The past doesn't have to stay in the past, it can inspire the future of how we eat. If this trip down memory lane made you hungry, or nostalgic, then don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and share this video with someone who remembers at least one of these sandwiches. And tell us in the comments, which of these do you want to see make a comeback? Or better yet, what's the forgotten sandwich from your family that deserves its story told? Because here on this channel, we're not just eating, we're remembering. And every bite of history deserves to be savored.